Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you are new, go check out our first episode, or don't. Doesn't matter.
Whatever you want to
It was a bit of a
do.
weird opening, but hello, everyone. We're glad to have you back. I am your host, Erin, and with me is your other host,
Amy. Hi. Happy Friday rainy day here. Don't know what it's like there, but it's a
it's
kind
it's
of
raining there, right?
It was pouring this morning. Yeah.
Oh, we're probably gonna get that soon. It's pretty sunny here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
The
which
difference
is
2 hours
nice.
makes, eh?
I know.
How Canadian is it
Well,
that we're talking about the weather? We're not here to talk about the weather, I
it's true.
promise. um,
Listen, even if I go visit my parents in Ottawa, right? Originally I'm from Ottawa. I live in Toronto. If I go to Ottawa, I step out of the car, however I get there, and it's like hitting an ice block if you go there for the winter. It's like so different.
yeah.
The temperature is so different.
hmm
Like it's wild. Wild.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in between those two cities. I feel
Yeah.
like we have weather more like Ottawa does,
Yeah.
even though we still are on the lake. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Winter's
So
coming. I just saw on
winter's
the
coming.
news last night or something I was watching on the Weather Network or something on my phone was how someplace in northern Ontario got 40 to 50 centimeters. I'm like, pardon me, of snow. It's coming.
Not ready. We're not ready.
Not
I'm not
ready.
ready for it. I'm not ready for it. Anyways, like you said, we're not here to talk about the weather. Don't worry, everybody.
You're like,
Welcome
what
to your
is
Canadian
this?
podcast. Yeah. We are two everyday mediums, and we're going to be chatting about all things spiritual. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about ethics, boundaries, what our experience has been like
Yeah.
as mediums, and how it's important to us. So, if you listen to our previous episode, we briefly talked about it, about the importance of ethics for us as mediums in this work, because it's very sensitive work.
Absolutely. Extremely sensitive. And I also feel like we have such a responsibility as people that do this work and that are seen as mediums, seen as guides for some people, for our clients. This isn't something that we take lightly. It's a big responsibility. And I know personally that I see a lot of things on social media in which people are not being as sensitive to or not being as aware of the responsibilities of what this work is like. So although we are not like licensed therapists, we do
Yeah.
both have a background in those types of fields, the social services, psychology, those kind of things. And so we know, I think that helps us a little bit, just in general in life, but also in this type of work, how important it is to have boundaries with yourself, with your client, with spirit, all the
Mm-hmm.
things. All the
All the
things.
things.
Yeah. And
And I'm sure even people listening will be able to relate to this in some sense, even if they aren't mediums or,
yes.
because boundaries, I think, is just something we're all working on continuously. Where are my boundaries? My therapist, bless her, amazing woman, once said to me, boundaries are, that thing as soon as your body is reacting, as soon as you're getting a bit nervous or you're feeling
Yeah.
some nausea, that's your body's way of telling you somebody's crossed your boundaries and you're not comfortable with that. And so it's,
100%.
it's a matter of really listening to your body. And I thought that was so, my therapist says things to
That's
me that I'm like, that is so,
it's
like, that makes so much sense. I wish I thought of that sooner,
yeah, it's
right? But
insightful. Yeah.
it's really insightful. It's so helpful when you have somebody else saying those words to you that you already
You already
know
know,
on
you
some
just don't know
level.
how to say.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it.
I know sometimes like you can hear like the same kind of message, but it takes like one person saying it a certain way and you're like, oh, okay, like that makes total sense for me. um And I feel like that happens sometimes in my work. Like I know sometimes I'm kind of channeling, and the things that come through for me from spirit, I'm like, whoa, like that's
Yeah.
such a simple thing, but the way
Yeah.
I'm picking up on it is like, whoa, right? Or like, and then when we share it with our clients, they're like, holy, that's like,
Do you
yeah.
ever catch yourself? Like, sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, that's really
I
beautiful.
know. I'm like, wow, I'm brilliant, man.
That's really amazing how that's coming through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny. I just said something, and I was making a joke about it, but maybe it's a way, a segue into talking about this. I said, "Holy, I'm brilliant, man." And there's this thing with mediums, right, or just with general with people that do any sort of work in which they feel called to. Sometimes there's even a boundary within ourselves to be aware of, like it's not me that's being brilliant. It's like spirit, it's the collective, it's what I'm picking up on. It's I don't know, I think that in this work there's a need to be humble.
Yeah.
And I don't always know that I see that. There's
Mm-hmm.
I just made a post this morning about like toxic spirituality or spiritual bypassing, and how we see, some of the big names in like self-development or even in spiritual like teaching can come across a little elitist sometimes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I think let's touch a little bit with where this is coming from.
And
um,
even
yeah,
not
not
always,
always. Yeah.
and even a little culty.
Yes,
Like, it's like,
100%.
yeah. So I think it's just about, I get asked all the time, well, how do you know what's for you and what's not for you? I always tell people, just really listen to your own intuition. Like, what is resonating with you? Is
100%.
your body telling you, no, red flag, red flag, red flag? Then listen to that,
100%.
right?
You are your own best authority. There's no
Yeah.
spiritual leader or person in this world that knows better
No.
for you than you. And that's the other piece of this like kind of culty elitist kind of feeling of that we see sometimes with people that do this work.
Yeah.
Like the mediums of the past
Yeah.
who were like, you need to come to me. I can only do this for you. 9.99 and I will break your spell. Like that kind of stuff. Like what?
And
Um
I just can't believe, like, those people are just sitting by the phones, like 1-800 call
right?
medium, like,
Call me
yeah,
now. Do you remember Cleo from the 90s? Call me
yeah,
now. Like,
yeah,
oh my goodness.
yes, yeah,
That's
yeah,
just
well,
kind of like exaggerated, right? And
yeah,
it's not to say those people don't actually have this ability.
yeah,
It's just somewhere along the line it might be because they, because it's kind of turned into more of entertainment, right? So
yeah,
then
yeah,
it's become entertainment. It's lost the real
yeah. And it
meaning.
can be, I think it's very easy in this work to get lost in the ego. And
100%.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it, right? Like, I've had to catch myself being like, that's not me. Hang on. You know what I mean? I think
100%.
it's,
Yeah.
so it's really important to have that self-awareness, I think.
Yeah. But also
Yeah.
not to judge yourself for going there in the moment.
Yes.
Like that's completely
Yeah.
human.
Yes.
It's just like going, oh, wait a second. Yeah. Like this
It's
isn't me.
You're
I'm
right.
not
It's
some
about
hot
like catching yourself.
catching
It's about
yourself.
having that, yeah, that awareness. Yeah.
100%. That's
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
that's awareness. Like that is enlightenment in a way, I think, because sometimes we think of enlightenment as this like far off thing, and we eventually get there and it's like we're gods. I don't know if anybody ever like reaches that state in their human lives, because that's not what being a human is about,
Yeah.
right? It's about seeing through your own BS in a way, or like working through your own like stuff, and
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
being aware of it and going, oh, so it's not that you never go back into that place, it's
No.
that you don't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
You're aware of
I
it and you
agree.
come out of
I
it.
agree.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree.
that's important
Learning.
too.
All
Yeah,
about learning.
forever and ever,
Um,
forever and ever.
Forever and
Amen.
ever. And I think we're constantly learning how to do this work. Like, I feel like, and I think I wanted to talk about this on the podcast because I feel like it also shows that self-awareness. But I feel like as mediums, we're constantly, it's a language you develop with your guides, with spirit, right? and we're
Yeah.
constantly learning how to interpret the messages,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think it's forever changing. I don't feel like it's staying the same,
No.
right? Because I feel like we're learning, we're evolving, we're growing, and that's part of the work.
Yes.
And I think it's important to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been guilty of like making, mistakes with readings of, how to interpret the
A
messages,
hundred
right?
percent. Yeah.
Um, and it's a huge learning curve. And I think that again, that's why it's so important to us, um, with the ethical side of this and having that awareness,
A hundred
right?
percent. 100%. I was just looking for something because I read something last night that kind of went, it kind of speaks to what we're talking about right now. It's by somebody, the quote is by somebody named Simon James. Don't know too much about him, but this is his
Shout out.
quote. It says, mediums are born and unfolded to serve the other world first, this world second. This comes as a shock to most people in the world today. So
Yeah.
it's like about this relationship we have with spirit, with God, universe, collective. We're serving them. Where we are this goes back to what I was just saying. Like it's not me. Like I'm not like the genius. I am channeling the genius, right, from the other from the other side. What do we need to know as a collective right now?
Mhm.
People that are sensitive to energy, that can have learned to interpret energy, are the ones that share it. And I think we had a conversation about this before in a live, maybe like the beginning, like earlier this year, about how I think it kind of came to me like a light bulb moment when we were doing this live. It was just a random live about ghosts, maybe, but we talked
Okay, yeah.
about how I think that like everybody channels and they don't always call it that. So if you
Hmm.
think about people that write music, that
Hmm.
play instruments, that write books, whatever it is, they're like tapping into something that the collective, so therefore like our society, needs to
Hmm.
hear. And so if you
Hmm.
think about it from that perspective and you look back at certain time periods, you're like, oh, like listen to the message of all those songs that came through during the 60s, during the 70s. Like what was that trying to tell us? I'm getting major goosebumps as I say this.
You're
I'm
channeling.
channeling, right? Because I really and truly believe in my bones that that's true. So
Yeah.
this
Oh, 100%.
100%. So this is not just like mediums that do this, psychics that do it. I think we all do it. I think
We
that's
all
part
do
of our
it.
message. This is a
Yeah, we're
human
all,
thing
yes.
that we can
Yes,
tap into.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
all connected, right?
100%.
That's why we can connect with people. It's all energy work, right? That's what I tell people. This is just energy work. You're giving me permission. We can go into that a little bit too. Like you're
Yeah.
giving me permission to go into your energy.
Mm-hmm.
This is that's all that I'm tapping into. And so when you think about it that way, we're all made up of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can, the person sitting across from me is also just as able to connect to spirit as much
Mm-hmm.
as I am.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
And I think that's part of the work about knowing that, like, and having that level of responsibility and having the humbleness to know, like, I'm not some chosen one, right? I'm not
I
Buddha,
don't
the
think you
next
want
Buddha.
me to be the chosen one.
I'm not the next Buddha. Like, I'm not the next God. I'm just simply a person that has
Yeah,
figured out something. I don't know. But the reason for that is to share it. It's not to hold on to it. It's not to make me like something special. It's to share it.
it's to share it. It's to share it.
It's to share it. But I feel like what's wants to be spoken about right now, if we could talk about it a little bit, because it still has something to do with this, is about the idea. So I feel like collectively we've done a lot of work around this. So I feel like the majority of people that do this work, but also people that come to people like want this service, understand that payment, money is energy, it's an energetic exchange.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there's still, sometimes I still hear, or see in different like online things, there's still people that feel like it's a gift that shouldn't be paid, like we shouldn't be paid for it. So what do you think about that, Erin? What's your opinion?
Well, I think it's we live in this society where unfortunately we need money.
Exactly.
I think that's what it comes
Just,
down to,
yeah,
like, or,
to live.
and to live,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I also feel like, would you go to your, um, I know this isn't therapy, but like, but it's a therapeutic experience, right? It's
Yes.
still,
It's
would you
healing.
go to your counselor and say, this is a service you should be giving me, just for free?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you go to your hairdresser and say, this is a service
Mm-hmm.
you should be giving me for free? Because we all put the energy work into it. It doesn't. I once heard somebody say, I'm interested to know your thoughts. Because years ago, and I'm still on this thread somewhere, I don't know where I am, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people find me. I used to use the service. Um, it used to be called Buns on Facebook, and that was like a way for myself to get my name out there.
Right.
So what I would offer is and it was always through trading. So I
Okay.
would say, I'll give you a reading. We'll just do a trade. And
For
I got
something
some
that you
things.
needed.
I got some weird things, some great things,
Like what? Give us an example of a weird thing.
Somebody gave me their old lamp that they had. I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness. Isn't
okay.
that
Or,
funny?
the coolest experience, if I could just share this
Okay.
really quickly. And the coolest experience I had was I had a mom. She asked if she could come with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She was like giving, this is okay with me, if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. But we are really good. We paint things.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wish I could go grab my painting. Maybe we'll like post it in
Yeah.
our Instagram story.
Yeah.
Um, we were really good at painting, and I had just painted in my like little apartment. I used to have like a junior bedroom, so that was
Yes.
basically a bachelor with a
Yeah.
little bedroom off to the side.
Yeah.
I had painted one wall where I would do my readings, and it was really actually this color. It was the color
Okay.
of my ring, so like a
Beautiful.
turquoise.
Yeah.
And they gave me this painting, and it was turquoise blue. It was like a blue turquoise painting.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they came in, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, it matches your walls." I was like, "This is amazing. I literally just painted this the other day." So I thought, like, and that gift I still have. Like, that is a gift that I hold so
Yeah.
dear.
Special to you.
It's
Mm-hmm.
really, really special to me.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I got some really nice. One person gave me some wine. Awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really
Somebody.
cool.
Yeah, and it was just a way to get my name out there. And
Yeah.
now I forget where this story was going.
Oh, a payment.
About payment, but it
Yeah.
was just, and so my name is on this thread, and people recommend my services. Sometimes they'll see me on there. I have no idea if you guys are watching or listening and you want to find it, go right ahead. But I have no idea where you can find it, to be honest. And somebody wrote on the thread, well, why is this? Why is she charging now? This is not a skill she has gone to school for.
The school of life, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you know how much time and energy and
yeah,
inner work that we go through?
yeah.
Like, yeah. No.
Which is why, I think over the years I think again, it's comes with experience, raised my prices,
Yeah.
and it comes with the experience of doing this work repeatedly. Also having, and I also feel like having the background that we do is really good soft skills that we just have with people.
100%.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that surprisingly is a bit tougher for some folks. Those softer skills, engaging with people, right?
100.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my little
Yeah, no,
tangent
I
there.
just have learned that money is just a form, an energy, like it's another form of energy. Like money is literally created. So there is enough money for everyone, right? I know, like I'm not naive enough to know to think that people have different um experiences and life circumstances, and certainly money comes easier to certain people than others, but it doesn't lessen the fact that when somebody's providing you a service, whether or not they did a crap ton of self-study and a crap ton of practice readings and most of us are doing so much giving anyways, but especially in the beginning. I mean, I did like 6 months of practice readings where I was
You weren't charging.
handcrafting. Pardon?
You weren't charging,
I
right?
wasn't charging because I didn't feel
Yeah.
right to charge until I felt like very confident that I could
Yeah.
give the person the experience that they were wanting. And so I
Mm,
did practice readings and I only did them via email.
mm,
So what I would do is I created this beautiful template in Canva. It looked like a work of art. And then I channeled, but it came out written word. And then I made it look beautiful. It was like a love letter
mm.
to the person from Spirit. And
Wow.
it was so much time and effort. And I was just giving that, And after a while, I started to, I actually, what happened to me after like doing this for a better part of a year, I think it was like, well, 6 months of doing practice readings. And then I started charging, but it was like $25, like very bare
Yeah.
bones.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
honestly say that although I have gained a lot of experience in those past 3 years, I still feel confident looking back that I was as good of a medium then that I am now.
Yeah.
But it was
Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
it was,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it was more
Yeah.
about getting myself to the point where I was confident in that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's about being confident
Yes.
enough in your abilities to just
I
trust
think
that,
it's a
like
wound. I
you
think,
are. Yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think that a lot of us have, money wounds and abundance wounds, and it travels in our families, it travels in our DNA of
Yeah.
being, living in scarcity, not
Yeah.
having enough,
Mm.
holding on, right? Like I can't give it away. I got to hold it on. Or sorry, that doesn't make sense, but,
But I get what you're
you know
trying
what
to
I
say. That
mean? And
yeah.
I feel like a lot of us still have that, particularly around this work, because you also have to think back to how much judgment and shame live in our history of
Mm-hmm.
people that did this kind of work or were
Yeah.
intuitive. Think about the witch trials, okay? Because I
Mm-hmm.
really believe in my bones that witches were simply intuitive people that just knew stuff.
Yeah.
I know that this plant will help this. I know that if I do this, this will help this. I know when the moon is full, it means this. Like, that's
They
all it
were
was. They
they
were
were
regular
healers, or
people.
they were women that would speak their
Yes,
minds. How dare they?
I know. And the powers that be that were trying to create the society, the patriarchy that we still live in, but we're starting to come out of, we're like, well, we can't have this. These women aren't going to listen to us.
Mhm.
Where is this coming from? Oh no, they're witches. They're evil. They're like channeling the devil.
And we still. I don't know about you. I still get called that. I had an ex of mine didn't know what to call me, and so we
They
would just
call you a
call it,
witch?
yeah, like a witch, right? And I'm like, no. So anyways, because of that, I actually got a witch tattooed on my ankle, little
Love it.
Kiki from Kiki's
I love
Delivery.
it. I know I'm all about it.
Like,
I've had people say that to me. They're like, I've said something like, this is before I started doing this work. I might like dream about a friend of mine, and then I'd be like, so, and I'd tell her something, and she goes, oh, Amy, you're such a witch. Like, what the heck? Like, where did this come from? I don't know. But like, I
yeah,
don't view it as a negative thing. I'm like,
no,
yeah, 100% that witch, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
that would.
That should be our
Shout out
background
to
song.
Lizzo. Yeah, it's amazing.
um. So okay, that's a little bit about that. So
Hmm.
what? Like, let's talk about things that maybe we're not comfortable talking about or channeling, or like our own boundaries with clients, but also the spirit world.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've always said to people, I don't, please don't ask me when someone will pass away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I compare it to this story that another medium once told me, where a woman asked her that,
Yeah.
but she wanted to know her own passing, and she said, Okay, let's just see. I don't think I'll get anything. We'll see what comes through.
Yeah.
She didn't get anything. Um, and I mean, this doesn't happen all the time. I think sometimes when we don't get things, we're also not meant to go there, but she didn't get
Yes.
anything. And the woman passed away not too long after that. And I think it's because we're just not meant to,
We're not
to
meant to
go
know
there,
that. No, I agree. I agree.
right?
Yeah, that's a boundary that I've set with spirit even before I started doing this work, and
Yeah.
I will mention it to clients as well. Like, or if I'm feeling like apprehension from a client or any sort of like fear, because there's a difference between being skeptical. I think
Yeah.
skeptics are wonderful. Like I think it's very healthy to be skeptical, but
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
difference between being skeptical and closed, completely
Yes.
closed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I sometimes I'll feel the fear from somebody and I'm like, this might not be the right time. Like we can reschedule later. It just might not be the right time because I don't, when you're afraid, spirit won't give us anything that you're not ready for. It's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
in your
That's it.
highest good. So,
Yes.
I never ever pick up on anything inherently negative or like a warning or anything about somebody's death or if I feel like somebody has cancer, anything like that. Nothing, I shouldn't say if I feel like, because I would never feel that when I'm
Mm-hmm.
channeling energy.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's things that we aren't meant to know,
Yeah.
right? We're just
I
not meant
also
to know.
think that there's rules over there. Like I think there's,
Absolutely.
I think there's a set of rules that
A
spirit
hundred
has to
percent.
kind of go by too. They can't just because if that was the case, I think we'd all be getting lottery numbers left, right, and center.
Yes, that's another thing, right? Right? It's like, oh, tell me when the if you can tap into all this, like,
If I had a nickel, Amy, I would
oh
be a
my
millionaire
god.
for the amount of times that we gotten
It's
told that joke,
just
right?
such a misconception. This is really what this podcast is all about. It's all of these misconceptions that we have learned, like maybe from just like society, and we've heard it before, we've done this work too, but then now we live and breathe it, and it's like, oh no, like let's talk about this, let's break this
Yeah,
misconception because it's just crazy.
misconception.
I actually don't believe, I don't like the word fortune teller. Somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like one of my friends or something months ago, sent me like some TikTok account, and she's like, look at this, and it was this woman who was calling herself a fortune teller, and I'm like, I just can't. I just can't with this. And so I made some sort of silly reel or something about fortune telling, but I don't like that word. I think it's a real old timey, like in the past kind of word. I do know that I do pick up on future events at times in
Mm-hmm.
readings. But I always say this is a probability for you. It
Yeah,
is not set in stone because the
yeah,
future hasn't happened yet and you actively create it. So,
it's always
you know,
changing.
for instance, a friend of mine is another friend of mine is a medium. And when she started to come into this work and realize it, it was about a year before I did. And I was kind of like her guinea pig for a good few months, and she would like channel and do readings for me and stuff, and she brought through the possibility of a fourth child for us. So I have three children. I had two pretty much back to back. They're now teenagers. And then we waited a good, like, there's 7 years in between middle and youngest. Okay, so we waited a
Right.
long time to have the third. I always wanted four. So throughout the whole third pregnancy, I'm like, I'm open to the possibility of having a fourth. We'll do those two close together too. So we've got like the two pairs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my husband was on board with it too. But then when my youngest was born, I was like, I don't know. I would like definitely was not as sure about it. And so this friend of mine had channeled that she felt there was, she didn't know this as well. Like she didn't know that I was even toying with the idea of a fourth.
mm-hmm.
She brought forward that she felt there was a little girl around and that she would like to come to me. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't know what to do with this because I'm starting to get this feeling. How I'm sure you've heard mums talk before about this feeling when you're done.
Mm.
I hadn't experienced that before. Like after the first two, I didn't feel done, which is why I knew I wanted a third. But when he was about 8 or 9 months, I got that feeling come over me. I was like, no, I'm done. And I knew it in my heart. It wasn't anything in my mind. It wasn't like me trying to rationalize anything. It was a feeling in my heart that I knew that this was it. And then she brought this up for me, and I'm like, oh no, like, am I twisting fate because I'm supposed to have this little girl? Like, what happens to this little girl? I was worried about it, like I was concerned. And she explained to me, no, like this is a probability. Mm-hmm. If you made the choice to have another, I feel like she would come to you in an instant. But if you choose not to, there's no hard feelings. She will go to somebody else. Probably that's close to you. I won't give too many details because this does involve somebody else that hasn't given me permission to talk about it. But let's just say that a few months later, a member of my family found out they were expecting their first child. Yeah.
Aww.
Right?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to her. Yeah. So I just share that little backstory because I know the people like stories, but also it shows how this is just a probability. It doesn't mean we have to do it. We need to live in how we feel. It's like this thing about like trusting your own inner authority.
Yeah.
Not doing it because you're like, oh no, like what happens if I don't? I'm going to do it out of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm going to trust. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's another misconception, right? That if you go and see, because I've had people say this to me like outright, I don't want that because I'm actually scared that if I sit down and you tell me future stuff, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I have to say, either they allow me to explain or they don't, which is cool.
Yeah.
But you have to sort of say to them, listen, I always tell people that the future is forever changing, right? Nothing is set in stone.
You're co-creating it.
Nothing is set. Exactly.
You need to take your power back.
Who is in a same medium who I shared that other story about.
Yeah.
Explained it to me, like, I don't know if you've ever taken a stats class, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different things that can come into play for the future that I'm not seeing.
100%.
Right? That might steer you in a different direction, and that's why things are always changing.
100%.
I can't, say for sure this will happen, but this is a probability. This is,
yes.
If you continue down this road, this could happen. It could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Or you could change your mind and go down a totally other direction.
And I think this speaks to the ethics part, right? That we do give that information, that we do empower others in that way, rather than maybe the mediums of days past, where it's like, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. So you better freaking do it, And then it's a fear-based thing. And I think that's where some of the fear with this work comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I've had people say that to me, like, you're going to have 3 kids. That's it. It's coming. So that's it. You're going to have 3 kids. I'm like, okay. I'm like, when I heard this, I was like probably 20 or something. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
And then what happens if you don't, though? And then what happens if you have one?
What happens if I don't?
Or if you struggle having another or something, and then you're going to like internalize, I did something wrong. I was supposed to have 3 kids and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always, whoever you go and see readings, this is a good message for everybody. Just go in there with an open heart, open mind, but take it with a grain of salt. And I think it's important to remember, just like we said, that it's like playing a big game of charades with spirit almost, right? About interpreting these messages. I also tell people that if I pull tarot cards out for the reading, if I pull a tarot card out and I'm saying this thing, but intuitively you're like, oh, I also feel this and this and this and this. Go with that.
Yeah.
That's also spirit coming to you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because I often say, like, when I'm channeling, I'm like, I feel very confident in what I'm being shown or hearing or feeling or any of these things. I do feel like that I can trust that is correct or that is what is coming through. Yeah. But I'm a human being who's tapping in and then having to interpret that. I'm a human being, so I might interpret it slightly wrong. But the thing is what we need to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
the image that they're showing us, which is why I
Yes.
was like, I'll describe it. This is what they're showing me. This is how I'm going to interpret it to you.
Right.
Um,
So that's a really good point, is maybe to say, this is how I interpret this, rather than this is what this means.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah, I often say that because I also feel that spirit kind of like in some way chooses the medium for the client,
yeah,
right? Like you're
absolutely,
led to a
absolutely.
certain person for a reason. And I know,
Yeah,
like, I'll see like certain themes that come through
yeah,
in the readings I do, where like a lot of the times I seem to connect with other people who have lost their father.
hmm,
Okay, because I
hmm,
lost my father, and I
yeah,
feel like that's just a common thing that comes through, and it may be just because I've lived that and I totally understand it. So when they, or like maybe their childhood was similar to mine, or maybe their
hmm,
father's stuff was similar to mine, so I can really into it, like I can really interpret it and feel it,
yes.
um because of that. So do you notice that in your work too? Like, do you find like
Oh,
certain things make sense for your life and comes in from your
oh,
clients?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's really neat how spirit works, because I don't know if you find this sometimes, um, that I'll get shown an image of my family or whatever, something that they were going through, and I, without saying, sometimes I'll say it's interesting that you're going, sometimes, sorry, they'll be going through similar events,
Yeah.
right? And I'm getting images that my family or I have gone through. And
Yes.
so that's how spirit is like, remember when this happened to you, they're also going through this, so
Yes. Yeah.
explain that.
I
It's really cool how they,
it's really
or for
cool.
example, they'll show me my brother,
Yeah.
and I'll say, do you know a Christopher? That's my brother's
Right.
name. And
Because
they're like, yeah, you know,
yes, yeah,
or
yeah.
they'll,
That's something that I'll say too, is like spirit will use a medium's own frame of reference
yeah,
to, because when they do that, they know Amy's going to get this, Erin's going to get this, and she's going to relay it properly because she's lived it too.
she's lived
So
it,
I
she's
feel like
understood
it's
it.
really important. Like, I share this message all the time, like, trust the energy. Like, if you want somebody, if you're looking for somebody to do this kind of work for you, don't just like go on Google and hire the first person that you see. Go on
Yeah,
their website, check out their social media. Do they put out videos?
yeah,
Like, watch them, watch their face, feel their energy, feel their words, see how they feel about things.
yeah. Do you
You'll know
resonate
if
with
it's
them?
right.
Yeah, exactly,
Because when you go to
exactly.
somebody like just any old random person, and they might not operate in a way that maybe we're kind of feel is not ethical or whatever, and then it taints that experience for you.
Yeah,
Like, do you know how
yeah.
many times I've had clients come in and go, I had a really shitty experience before. Or I went to a medium and she said I was not readable. She said I was completely closed off, that nothing would come through. And then they internalize that and walk through their
Oh,
life thinking,
oh,
I can't be
that
read.
just
I'm
makes me
closed
so
off. It's
upset.
icky. I'm defective. And I'm like, oh my God. Um, you're right. So when I find like, I just did a reading the other night, and it was a first timer, and I get really excited with first timers because I feel
Yes.
very confident in my ability to make them comfortable now. And we are
Yeah,
both like people, like
yeah, yeah,
we're like, I want to talk to you. I want to connect with you. I want to make you feel good. That's just
yeah,
our personality. So like, I'm
yeah.
so glad that this is your first experience. It don't let it like intimidate me. I'm just like,
No,
good.
no.
I can show you the way it should be. So
Yes.
not in an ego-y way, but more
No, no,
like
no, no.
in a caring way.
You're just like, I want to be here. I am
I'm here
going to
for
be
you.
through. I'm
Yeah.
going to be with you through this experience.
Yeah.
And if you want to hold my hand, I'm here to hold your hand, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. I will
100%.
walk you through it.
100%.
That's the other thing I found, especially when I first started doing it, I found I would get a lot of people who had never had readings before.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their first time.
And do you think that's spirit saying, I want you to be there first because you're going to
And
make
that
this
is,
right? Yeah.
like, don't you just
It makes you
feel
want to
like
cry.
my heart is about to burst? Burst. Like,
Yeah.
that is the biggest,
Yeah.
it's just the sweetest thing,
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very humbling.
100%. Yeah,
And
that's the
again, that's
difference.
why we
It's
think
not
ethics is important.
ego-y, it's humbling. It's like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for choosing me to give this loving message to them.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Um, Now we've got a little bit of time left, but I feel like I feel like we want to touch on a couple more things. One was I wanted to share a story with you, and the other
Yes,
one
please.
was kind of about maybe um, how we see. Maybe we'll end with how we see mediums portrayed on TV, in the media, and also maybe our take on like reading people that don't give our permission. So like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, the person that hasn't signed up for a reading is just like some
Yeah.
random person. So maybe I could share this story first because it kind of ties
Yes,
into this what
please.
we're talking about. So
Amy always has really good stories.
thank you. So this is obviously this comes from a reading that I recently did. It's not a spirit story per se. It's more about a reading experience, and it will be. I'm obviously not going to betray the person's confidentiality, so it's going to be in an anonymous fashion. But it's more to explain kind of what happened as a way to kind of showcase how we feel and how we operate. So
Yeah.
I had a reading with somebody the other day who was a first timer. And she started out like as soon as she came on my screen, I was like, there was like pleasantries exchanged, and she seemed like a really nice person, but I could feel the fear radiating. And so I can feel that. We can feel that. I think we all can feel stuff like that from other people, but somebody that like does this all the time definitely can feel it right away and trust the feeling.
Yeah.
So I said, like, are you like, and it's like okay to have nervous excitement, like nerves, but are you afraid? And she said, yeah, I think I am. And I was like, oh, and this was a little bit unusual for me because my business runs on word of mouth, as I feel like yours does in a way too. And so I trust when somebody signs up for a reading that they're ready for the reading in some way, right? But we don't always know like their reasoning for it. But I was just like, okay, like let's try to work through this fear a little bit. So I really kind of went through my process. I told her how I work, what I don't tap into, that this was a safe, confidential space and all this stuff. And so she's like, okay, ready to go. And so I felt spirit come in right away, and I felt very specific things come in, and I was giving them. Okay. And certain things were like, wasn't a lot of confirmation, and that's okay because sometimes people need to just absorb and be in the moment. And it was like, okay. But there was a lot of things that were like, and I just could tell it wasn't hitting in some way. Yeah. So I'm like, but for me, it was like boom, 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 right? Boom. And so I'm like, oh. And so it's like, this is how, we're humans too, right? So when this starts to happen, it's really normal for a medium to go, or at least me to go, get in my head. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. Even though I know I'm not doing anything wrong. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like we kind of talked about how there might have been some fear actually, and even, is this okay to do? Is this okay for us to communicate? Like, is this okay? Do I want to know? And I was like, So I said, perhaps this isn't the right time. Like, I want to make sure that this is a wonderful, like, positive experience for you. So we can reschedule at any point, like in the next year. Like, just send me an email. We'll do it again. And but there was something in her that was like, oh, let's just stay a little bit longer. So then I said, okay, like think about this person that you really want right now to come through. And as soon as that happened, somebody new came in, and I felt something change within the energy. And it was really about her going, opening. Yeah. Because it wasn't just skepticism, it was closed fear, right? And all of a sudden I could feel it change, because we can feel it change, because when we're connecting to somebody who's completely open and ready, the information is very much like a conversation between spirit and us and the client. And it's just like, and it feels like everything flows. It doesn't mean that everything 100% makes sense. Sometimes it takes the person a time to think about it later. But for the most part, it feels like it's really flowing, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
And but there's sometimes when you're reading somebody who's not open where it's like, it's coming in, but it's not flowing. It's kind of like thinking about like your kitchen sink has a clog in it, so it's not completely flowing through there. It's trickling.
Good image.
It's trickling, and I'm like, something just happened, and she's like, yeah, I don't know what happened. Something just happened, and then we had like boom, 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 and then somebody else came in. It was boom, 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 and at the end she was big smile. She's like, oh my goodness, and it just it all that was. So I said to her, I'm like, you are the important person in this equation. You are the one that really matters, right? Because I feel like your spirit is going to be here for you because they want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's you. And she really like saw it in that moment how important it was. So I wanted to share that because it just shows I think it talks a bit about ethics in the case of like us knowing like we want to provide the best possible experience for you. So I'm not just going to like half-ass this and do a crappy reading.
No.
Because then you have that experience with this. And then it only adds to your fear, adds to your closed offness. So like, let's try this again later. I will gladly give my time to do it again later.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because for people that may feel like a medium couldn't read them, perhaps like maybe there was a part of that happening. Maybe it was a part of like you weren't comfortable with that specific person, and so you were more closed off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables when it comes to that, but
no, it's so true, and you can feel it. Like I've gone over time because I felt like, oh, something's not clicking, and trying to really, let's get there. Come on, spirit, help me out, and then you can feel that when that shift happens.
Yes.
It really is like a clogged sink. It just sort of starts flowing.
It's just like, it's amazing when you can feel it and you're like, oh man, like this feels awesome. I'm so glad that something just happened, something shift. But you can definitely feel that. But
it's important. I mean, I've had people where, occasion it's happened where I can't read them. Yeah. And I've said to them, I haven't offered to reschedule, but maybe that's something I should do. But I said, I just might not be the right medium for you, and that's okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's really about finding somebody that you can connect with. Yep. And so that things just start flowing through to you. So if that happens, I suggest other people.
Yeah. And that's part of you and I being heart-led. Yeah. And doing this from the heart. Is in trying to make it right? Or not wanting them to internalize anything. No. Like learning, detachment is like the theme of my life right now. Detachment, okay? And I just had a call with my business coach yesterday, and I was like telling her about this. I like the word keeps coming to me. The universe just keeps giving it to me, and I'm like, what does this mean? What does detachment mean? And I was like, I feel like something is asking me to let go of my expectations around the outcome of everything, not just readings, everything in life. Okay. And then this is kind of like one of those universe, like blind mind blown moments, right? So I had this conversation in this group yesterday about detachment, journaled about it yesterday. And then this morning, on Facebook, I belong to this like Gene Keys group. So we can talk about Gene Keys another day, but essentially like there's human design and Gene Keys, and it's all kind of like a way to better understand all the different layers of you if it's something that you're something that you're interested in. Has a lot to do with energy. And so I saw this page on my Facebook feed, I saw this post, and it was about one of the spheres in your Gene Keys. So you have like a specific chart, right? Just like almost, if you think about like your birth chart, right? It's something very specific to you. And there's a sphere that's called purpose. and there's a number with it, okay? So this post I saw was explaining really what that purpose sphere is all about, and how it's like this hidden thing within you that needs to be unlocked. And once you really get it and you start embodying it, it's like you've unlocked the key to alignment, or like to flow and ease and all these things. So my gene key in that sphere is 42. Okay, so then I looked up what gene key 42 means. Guess what it is? What? Detachment. I swear to God, I sent it to my business coach and I'm like, take a look at this voodoo. And she's like, what the heck, Amy? And I'm like, part of my purpose is learning to be detached from the outcome, to live in the moment, because I'm chained. I'm in my own prison in a way of expectation, right? Yeah. And how, because one thing I talked to her about is, I feel like I'm in my power, and I'm aligned, and I'm conviction is the word we used, how like we need to be convicted about certain things. And I said, I feel that way when I'm doing one-on-one sessions. I feel that way when we record this podcast. I feel this way when I do lives. I feel like I'm in my element. I'm in my power. I'm not like stumbling on words. I'm not feeling self-conscious. I just am. I'm in the moment. But when I'm trying to do something new, I'm like, like I feel like an idiot half the time. Like my words don't come to me. I feel insecure. And I'm like, it's because I'm too attached to the outcome, because the things that I've already done, I already know what the outcome is. Yeah. So I'm detached from it. I just trust it's going to be good. Right. Yeah. And I had to go through this. Now I see the cycle of how many times this has come up in my life. And when I push through it, I do it. Because when you push through the fear or the control or the expectations, you come out on the other side, then you're free. Then you feel confident. But I'm like, oh my God. So the key to unlock my, all the new things I want to do is really about just getting past me worrying about the expectation. Because what's the worst thing to happen? Yeah. If I do something and it flops, it's like, why can't we just take that as feedback? Yeah. Okay, that didn't work. Yeah, next time. Like, it was really one of those light bulb moments, because I'm like, oh my God. So this is just the way the universe.
Amy, like what you're talking about, that is like such a I go through. I mean,
we all do. We all do.
We all do. That's such a, again, I always say to people and to myself, because sometimes I need to be reminded, we're human beings. We're not human doings.
100%. Right. And we're here to feel it all. We're here to be messy AF. We're here to feel like, this is why we're human. I mean, I don't know if plants feel like, perhaps they do feel certain things like temperatures and stuff, but I does a tree feel pain? Like, I don't know. I guess we read a book. We should know this. Our book club.
Remember our book club? So
remember how our
we have a book club, but we have not.
We dropped the ball on that book club, eh?
It's still going. I don't know if people are. I have not checked it.
I know. That's a heads up. That's a heads up from Spirit. Get your asses in there. Oh, too funny. But no, like, I might talk about my specific, like, gene key chart, but it's really important for us to know we all experience all of this, right? It's just maybe in my chart, that's pronounced as something that would continually come up for me as a cycle. Not that we don't all feel those things at times, right? It's just, but...
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's important. I think people will relate with that in some level, for sure.
Yeah. I got to go with it. Like, when it comes into my mind, I just trust that that's another thing I'm learning too, is I was talking to somebody like last week. We were talking about human design, and how I have an open throat. And this will make no sense for people that don't know anything about human design. But essentially, what I was saying to her, off topic was sometimes I feel like in my power, like I might go live and talk about something that I feel confident about or that I really enjoy, and it feels like it just flows, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm not worrying about what I'm saying. I'm not in my head. I just am. But then there's times where I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm stuttering, don't know what I'm saying. And then I'm like, did that even make sense? That wasn't like congruent. Like there was no flow to it. What am I doing? And then she said, what I understand of having an open throat channel in human design is that you need to know, it's really important for you to know when to share and when not to. So perhaps you could think about when things flow, you're meant to share, and when things don't, you're meant to keep it for yourself. And I was like, this just saved me so much time. Whoa, right? Of course. Yeah. Of course. And that's one of those things that's like so simple, but just her saying that in that way, I'm like, oh, not meant to share.
I think we know the title of our podcast now. It's I Just Am.
Yes. We were trying to come up with a name for this episode. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
The episode name? Or
I don't know. I just feel like I just am.
I just am. And so it is. Right?
Yeah. We just are. I just am. This is.
Yeah. Love it. In the moment. This is who I am today.
In the moment. This is.
Might be somebody different in 5 years, and that's okay. But just right now, this is who I am. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So let's end, because we're getting close to an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Feel like that,
I know. But you know what, guys? Last episode was shorter. It was like 20-ish minutes, 25 minutes or so. And the feedback that we heard was like, I want more. Make it longer. So we're making it longer. It might not always be close to an hour. It might be more like 45 minutes, but we'll definitely talk longer, because it's not as if we don't have anything to say. We were just trying to be like shorter and to the point. Why don't we
episodes are good, right?
Right. Do you want to like quickly end on how we feel about connecting to people, or the importance about permission before we say goodbye?
I think it's important for that, that permission to connect. And now I will say that I have done readings for people where they've wanted to know, are my kids okay?
Yeah.
How is so-and-so? I just genuinely want to know if they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I have done that. The tricky part is if somebody is wanting to get a sneak peek behind the curtain for other reasons.
Yeah. The intention has to be.
The intention.
Yeah.
It's the intention.
Yeah.
And listen, even if I wanted to, it's not coming. I can't do it. Like, and not that I don't want to do that, because I feel like that's very invasive of somebody's privacy.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting next to somebody, on the airplane and going in and being like, I want to know. Like,
no. That's an abuse of it's like I was going to say abuse of power, and I was like, is that the right word? But I think so. It's an abuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not right.
No, it's not right. We all have the right to have privacy. But I also want to put it out there that it's not like we could, even if somebody didn't have the best intentions and was like, oh, I'm a psychic or I'm a medium and I'm just going to like read whoever I want. They're not necessarily getting it all from spirit, because there are boundaries in the spirit world, and spirit's probably like, like, this isn't coming from me. You're making this stuff up in your head.
We know the difference, right? Even if I'm with your energy, that person's their energy, and they're around you, their energy is so close to you already.
Yes.
If we're asking about somebody, I'm not close to them. I want to know how Hugh Grant, I don't know why it came to my mind. I want to know what Hugh Grant
Maybe you need to watch Love Actually. I don't know. Like, get that on the TV.
It's so fuzzy. It's like trying to see something through a teeny tiny little hole, like a little speck, right?
It's not your business.
It's none of our business.
Yeah.
And spirit is like, nah.
No, thank you.
Nah.
No.
No, thank you.
There's no reason for it. Do you have a connection to that person? Or sometimes people will be like, can you connect to Elvis Presley? No. Do you know
No, I
Elvis
can't.
Presley? Is he your long lost uncle? No?
Yeah.
Then we don't need to connect with
We don't
him.
need to connect with
We
them.
don't need
Now, the
to.
flip side, I don't know if you've ever had this. Sometimes people will bring in people for other people. Like, I'll
Yes.
get your friend's great aunt
Yes.
just being wanting to come through saying, hey, just wanted to say hi.
Absolutely. But that's them making the decision. That's the spirit world. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's not us like pulling it out. Because there are things like Erin said, like sometimes somebody will ask me something future based or about another person, and I'm just kind of like all the other information could have flowed like a beautiful conversation, and then all of a sudden it's like crickets, and I'm like, I'm sorry, spirit is telling me that's not something we're meant to know.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about this. We're all here to do certain things, to be certain things, to learn certain lessons, whatever it is. And spirit, the collective God, the universe, has like a very big picture overview, right?
Yeah.
Of knowing all the things. And so it's kind of like, if I tell you that will change the course of something that you're meant to figure out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not giving it to you because then your mission has failed because somebody walked you through a process that you had to learn yourself. Yes. I truly believe that as well. When things don't want to come through, 100%. It's like, we're not meant to know that.
We only give the stuff that we're meant to know.
100%. Yeah, that's why I always say everything's in your highest good. Everything that you need to know will come through. So sometimes things come through and they're like, whoa, like that's something from my childhood. I didn't even know that was bothering me, but I can now see how this has played out over and over again in my life. Whoa, right?
I get so many people that are like, I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Then I listened to it a month later and I went, oh, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Well, that sounds like a good way to end. We're at 1 hour and 56 seconds. We're good to go. How's that? How do you like them apples? That was
so good.
A much longer conversation, and I loved it. So, guys, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. We have a Instagram page just for our podcast. It's called Soul Rising Pod. That's POD. You can find that on Instagram. We also have our the video of this. So if you want to see us in action, of us drinking our coffee, or all our hand gestures, I talk with my hands. I don't know. Erin does too a little bit. I don't know. You can see us in action over on our YouTube account, which is Soul Rising as well. So
love it. And okay, we have a Facebook page.
Yes,
for folks interested.
That's right.
Also, Soul Rising, right?
That's right. That's right. So, thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thank you so much.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.